You're listening to Chunktober from Two Chunks and Hunk. Razor claws and gnashing teeth, eyes that burn with hell's heat, climbing to the world above to drink their fill of human blood. Listener, make your final stand, for the hour of monsters is at hand. You can't hide and you can't flee. The creatures of Chunktober III.
And welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk. My name is Jordan Wonders, and this week I am your chunk.
I'm Dosh, and I'm an English teacher, not hunking Tomb Raider.
Very good.
And I'm Carter, and Holly, safety first. I don't want any chunks this time.
Gross.
Doge.
Yuck.
You're the Hunk. Tell us why.
Yeah, it's because... Funky Town.
Won't you take
Hunky
me
Town.
to Hunky Town?
Yeah, that's great. It's because I'm a brave boy.
Yeah.
I don't typically, and I'll say this, I think actually doing Chunktobers has pivoted me on horror as a genre. Because this is my
You in now?
favorite. I'm 100% in. This is my favorite thing we do every year. But
Same.
I
It's
have
good.
Fine.
historically not been a horror boy. And this is one of the jump scariest things I've willingly subjected myself to, but I loved it. I'm trying things that scare me. I'm playing Bloodborne now. I'm a
Yeah, you
brave
are.
boy. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm probably going to skydive later this week.
We're only
It's
one
great.
host away from all of us completing Bloodborne this year.
That was
Assuming I can beat it this year.
You can beat it.
I'm a slow player.
You'll be hooked. You'll be
But anyway, I was brave. I watched this. I wasn't even as scared as my wife was. You want to talk about
being brave.
a real baby. It was embarrassing how scared she was, but I was not scared at all. I thought it was funny. I laughed at it.
Speaking of jump scares, I just need the HE double hockey sticks out of my desk here. So somebody might have gotten a
Yikes.
nice little auditory spook right there.
Are you a brave boy?
I'm a brave boy. I'm a brave boy.
Good. Carter, what have you done that's brave?
What have I done this brave? Watched an entire season of that stupid show in 2 days.
He's talking about Haunting
Oh, Hill House.
which is,
Oh, that's
I
true.
think
You
a
were a
lot of people
brave
are
boy.
probably confused because he
Yeah.
referred to it as a stupid show when it is in fact the best. But speaking of all the spooky, scary things that we've
It's
done
Chunktober,
and are
baby.
doing, it's Chunktober. It's Chunktober 3, y'all. And it's
Creature
time-
Threacher.
Creature Threachers. And it's time to jump in feet first, not head first. You don't know what's down there. Feet first.
My God, bring a flashlight, please.
Into the abyss as we talk about the first movie of our Chunktober 3 series, which of course is known as The Descent.
to madness.
Doge, synopsify me. Hey, real quick, Netflix just sent me a push notification on my phone.
Oh,
Just to let me know that if I want to watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it is on Netflix right
that's
now.
good. You always got to keep that radar up and ready so you
heads
can
up.
see. You got to know where to watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith if
Just
you need
got
to.
a quick push notification that's like, hey, I know you're absolutely frothing at the mouth to watch Mr. and
I mean,
Mrs.
you
Smith.
can. I'm glad you can calm down and focus on this episode now. I was worried that was going to be too distracting.
No promises. Now I'm just going to be watching picture in picture you guys and then also Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
This week's IMDb synopsis is written by international hacker group Anonymous.
They're like,
In this movie,
After a tragic accident. After a tragic accident, 6 friends reunite for a caving expedition. Their adventure soon goes horribly wrong when a collapse traps them deep underground and they find themselves pursued by bloodthirsty creatures. As their friendships deteriorate, they find themselves in a desperate struggle to survive the creatures and each other.
Come through, dude.
Ooh. Thanks, Anonymous.
this movie would be one of the scariest movies I had ever seen, even if there was not a single creature in it.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Even before there was any of those underground boys and girls, I was already freaked.
I used to have a recurring dream when I was a younger man about
Like
crawling.
a big wave coming to destroy Numenor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was crawling through essentially like a tunnel system like this and would get stuck as it narrowed and couldn't get out.
Nah.
I would have that dream.
I think you were remembering your birth.
That could be my birth, but I did end up getting out of that one. Thank goodness.
It feels like, this isn't our first horror movie to do this year. But it feels like we might have had conversations about this, but the horror genre seems quite the canvas for like lessons in pace.
Yeah.
How do we pace a movie? And I think especially when it just already starts scary is why The Descent feels just relentless.
What other horror movie have we done this year?
I feel so sorry for some of our people here.
Yeah, it is. I would say it all comes down to taste. It's subjective, this statement for sure. But to me, it's a perfectly paced horror movie because of what you're talking about. Where it's like you hit play and you're like, oh, that's a fun little rafting trip. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no. And then you're like, oh, okay, it's a year. I hope she's better. Oh, no. And then that's just the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very effective. I will say that I don't know. Does anybody know what the budget was on this? It had to be low.
It is low. I thought I saw that this movie cost $1 million.
Shut up.
Wow.
Look. Okay, so more than that. It was like 3.5 million pounds. So that'd be closer to $4 million maybe?
I think
Still
so,
$4.5 million. Still real cheap, dude.
Yeah, very cheap.
Yeah,
Real
totally.
cheap.
I mean,
It
worldwide
made
gross was
60 million.
Yeah,
So-
let's say.
More than 10 times. So congrats.
Well,
Well
we're
deserved. Holy
we're
crap.
not breaking any new ground by saying that The Descent is an effective horror movie. It's regularly brought up in conversation as one of the best like 2000s era horror movies. And I think so. I was talking to Callie kind of while this movie was starting about it's not. I think it's neither good nor bad, but it's very mid 2000s of this movie to do this move, which is, I think, in modern horror, and I think I lean towards liking this a little bit more. But for things like during the road trip drive out to the new place, we would have been listening to them laughing and preparing for their trip while they listened to the radio. We would have been listening to the radio with them and like setting up the fun stuff while knowing something bad is coming. But early 2000s, sonically, were the same throughout the entire horror movie. Even in the lighthearted moments, it's still like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no. What's going to happen? And this movie never sonically feels like something happy will happen.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, when we talk about the pace too, the fact that some like copper pipe goes through husband's face to begin, like when we're just driving, that came out of nowhere. Really good horror jump scares are when you're not anticipating it.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's why it's called a jump scare. But in this situation, it was like, oh no. Like for me, I was like, oh man, this totally changes things. And then also, what a catalyst for, well, crap. I think this whole movie will feel kind of like this.
Well, the opening scare with the pipes that you're talking about feels like somebody was like, okay, I'm about to slap you. I'm about to slap you. Get your face ready. I'm about to slap you. And you're like, okay, just do it. And then they tase you. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like happened. Because it's like, oh no, here comes the car accident. And then he gets stabbed to death.
It's very like Final Destination with that
Very
in a
Final
way that feels tonally pretty different from the rest of the movie.
I
to me.
agree. It doesn't hold up to the rest of this movie.
That's not my super dump, but that was like, as I was watching, even like this is my first time to see this movie. I don't know. Had you guys seen this before?
I had
a
not.
long time ago. I saw it in like high school.
Even as I was watching, I was like, oh, that doesn't feel quite right. I think if this was made now, we probably wouldn't even show the death of the husband and the daughter. We would probably show them in flashbacks.
Yeah.
And like piece together, hey, something horrible has happened.
I don't know though. I think we needed to see a present day like that at the beginning, because one of my favorite things, and we'll get to my super pump at some point, was the Sarah Juno dynamic.
Yeah.
And so I do think it's good to have that, like as Juno is kind of given some Wii Sports eyes to Paul, which was Sarah's husband, on this trip. You can tell that there's a little bit of a rift. I did like having that interaction. I guess a flashbacks of like the actual action and Sarah and Paul not doing so well would have been fine. But I think the subtleties of those interactions at the beginning I needed in real time. But I do also say what you're saying, Doge. Like a flashing back could have done better for us. Because I do like the idea of coming in cold of here's this trip. Boy, the Sarah girl sure is depressed.
Yeah, it's been a
What's this
year
all
since
about?
what? Yeah.
Yeah. Get it in a flashback or something.
This did
I
feel like Sarah's grief reminded me a bit of Midsummer in terms of like at the very beginning we see a very traumatic death, plural deaths.
Yeah.
And we just see this person trying to get through it. I think there's a lot of similar elements actually.
That is very true, yeah.
Yeah, there is something. So first of all,
Carter, I didn't even think about that, especially when you take the original ending into account rather than the Americanized version. That is very similar to
the
Midsommar.
original ending of what? Of this?
Of The Descent.
What was the original ending of this?
What ending did you see? What was the last scene that you saw? Was it the ghost of Juno in the passenger seat?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not the last scene of the movie.
Oh, really?
Like right after that scene in the UK version, we cut to Sarah waking up on the floor of the cave. She's hallucinated her entire escape and she dies in the cave. You don't see monsters again at all after that. So maybe even the monsters were a hallucination. So that is my super dump.
Doge, listen to me.
Yeah.
My super dump was going to be that with this movie. I already liked this movie. This movie is infinitely better with the ending you just described to me.
Yeah. Which is the real ending. That was screened for audiences in the US. And they said, hey, that's too dark. We want something a little happier. We want our heroes to escape.
Dark?
And so they just cut the last scene and then built a sequel off of the new US ending where she goes back in the cave and gets, basically has it all happen again.
No thanks.
But we're cutting off the last.
I love that.
My super dump was going to be that her hallucinations and inability to take her meds while in the cave never actually amount to anything. That was going to be my super dump, is that it feels like it should have amounted to something. I was even telling Callie, I would have loved for this movie to have insinuated that these crawlers never existed in the first place. And that
That's
Sarah
exactly
was
what
on a
it does.
psychotic break and went
I love
on a
that.
killing spree because she was so freaked out from her psychotic break and, how scary it was.
The blood she's covered in is of all of her friends.
It's her friends.
That's what, man. Okay, so
that's my super dump because that fundamentally changes this movie. You're cutting out the very last because that's the thing. We talk a lot about structural things on the show, like 3 beats. 3 beat, establish, reinforce, subvert. Sarah has 3 distinct visions throughout this movie. And we see her daughter with the birthday cake 3 times in this movie, except in the US version, we only see them twice.
Yeah.
The third version exists in a 3 beat. The pattern is you establish something, a truth, a reality. You reinforce that reality, and then you subvert that reality. We're using these visions to establish Sarah is hallucinating, but she's in no real danger. We establish that with the first vision where she sees like pipes coming through. There's 3 different times that she sees these things. The first 2 we established that. The subversion comes in the last one. Sarah's having these visions. She's been in real danger and something horrible has happened. The last vision of the girl with the birthday cake that we're supposed to see is her blowing out the final candle on the cake. There's 6 candles in the cake. There's 6 women in the cave. Like we 100% lose all of the subtext.
That's so much better.
We lose so much of the power of this story by cutting that very last scene.
Okay, my
It's
super
because it
dump
felt like such a cheap scare.
Yes.
I lost
Yes.
respect for
Yes.
production.
Yes.
That's why you do your research, people.
My super dump was going to be that the storyline of the meds never really amounted to anything. My new official super dump is that the version I watched, which was the readily available free on Amazon Prime, the only one that popped up for me originally, the version that I watched is a lesser version. That sucks.
It just
Did
cut
you
out
watch
the last
UK
scene.
version, Dosh?
I did not. I read about that. I looked on IMDb to be like, why did this end with the ghost of Juno? Because then I was looking at the synopsis and like stuff about The Descent Part 2. Like, okay, is it ghosts in the second one? But
My assumption was simply that she was having hallucinations of people that she watched die in her life, like her daughter and her husband, and that was why she, now that Juno is dead, like I was viewing it as confirmation that Juno died in the cave.
yeah.
Once she saw the ghost, that means Juno's dead. That's how I took it. So I didn't find that it was cheap. I just found that it was ineffective.
And I think our director, I don't remember his name. I should look that up.
I would be furious.
I know.
Well,
I would
at
be
that point,
absolutely furious.
so our director didn't even want to make this movie, but he was like, you know what? I'll do another horror movie. It seems pretty different. Neil Marshall. Yeah. But then he was even asked, like, at some point after the premiere, were the monsters real? And he was like, well, you saw how she did an escape, right? She imagined her escape. Who's to say she didn't imagine everything?
Yeah.
Like, that is so clearly the intended version of this movie.
So much better. And I even said to Callie, like, man, because I barely remembered anything from this movie. I think I must have watched it at like a Halloween party or something where I just didn't really care about it. But I even told Callie, like, man, there was a part of me that really thought she was going to be hallucinating all of this and that none of it was real. So I prefer that.
Which is what we wanted. That's what we wanted out of
Hereditary.
Hereditary. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to make a big thing about dealing with trauma, make the conflict internal. That's what we said with Hereditary.
So because there are two actual versions, let's decide now, how do we want to rate this? I guess the rating is still subjective for all of us individually, so maybe we don't have to do that.
Well, so there were two versions.
Now I want to...
The Descent Part 2 continues the ending from the American version, where she really did escape the cave. The creatures were real. So I think we have to regard the U.S. version as the canon version, I guess. But anyway, that's the version we watched. So
I think I will be reviewing this as a standalone movie with the ending that I saw.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's how I'll be reviewing this, personally. Something that I really, really love about this movie is, unless you count actors in costume as these crawlers, we have like one male character in this whole movie who is gone in the first 4 minutes of screen time.
Yeah,
and especially for the 2000s, but just in horror in general, I don't think you often get ensemble not that this is a true ensemble, but like you don't often get group casts of all women.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And especially not women that are this capable and this bad A.
Right.
That can just stroll into this cave and short of it collapsing on them, make their way through just fine.
Yeah. I feel like a majority of the last couple of decades, and maybe The Descent was more the beginning of this. It really was heavy 80s, 90s that there was the trope of like sexy, my clothes organically keep getting ripped off.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Sprinkler kind of vibe for women in horror. But yeah.
The final girl
I noticed
thing that they talk
Jordan,
about.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I just think it makes this movie because like they are able to fit into tighter spaces than I personally would be. It makes it so much more claustrophobic to me because they're willing to take these risks on sliding through these small spots in this cave.
Not a chance.
And then also like I feel like it makes it really realistic that they can put up a fight against these creatures who live in this cave because these women are all like rock climbers and caver. Like they're just so cool.
Yeah.
And they come in just ready to roll and hit. I don't know. I really love the vibe of this movie a lot.
Yeah. I
will say, let me say two things. First of all, I think the not having Paul hardly say anything.
Yes.
And just having a lot of illusions as to what could have possibly been going on with Juno. Juno makes the dynamic of Sarah and Juno makes their dynamic stronger to me.
Agreed.
I like that we don't know exactly what happened. I like that we don't know exactly how long. I like that we don't fully have an idea of that because we don't really need to. I think we just need to know like the overall dynamic, the spirit of their relationship is many layers of complicated.
Yeah.
My super dump in a movie that has a completely incredibly capable female cast is for some reason, because I do think we have two transformations here. I think we see Sarah transformed. I think she literally is like washed by the blood and becomes something completely different.
Yeah.
And Juno. So Juno has this thing too, to where she does kind of, and the way I experienced it, there was some kind of evilness to that. Like she never said that she killed her friend. I thought that was so interesting. And now you're also trapped with her. I love all of the things to be afraid of down here. But what I don't like is there were these weird cut moments that we have Juno kind of get Aquaman a little bit Momoa'd, where she would like come in and kill something and then we like zoom in on her, like Tomb Raider style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was fully expected like a wow.
I know. Well, I was going to say,
right at
it's
her.
funny that we bring up Tomb Raider. We invoke Tomb Raider earlier because she just straight up becomes Lara Croft by the end of this movie.
Yeah. When we're holding our little pick that she's starting to use as a weapon, it's like, I don't know. It felt off. It felt like it took me out of the rest of the vibe of the movie.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
in so much that I was was like, well, that's dumb. Then they did it again. Then they did it again. It's just like every time Juno showed up, it was like, thank God we've got Juno.
You know what's weird? Can I tell you that I agree with you and also loved it whenever she was being cool?
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Don't know why.
I feel like, I don't know, man. I like bits and pieces of who Juno is in this movie, but there is an element of like, there's almost this sinister element to her even before things start to go really south.
Well, I think the whole point of the movie is that being down in the cave intensifies every single person's personality. It's the descent into madness.
Yes.
I think while they're in there, they all become
totally changed.
caricatures of themselves while they're down in the cave. I think that's what the whole point is, because Sarah hamstrings Juno and leaves her for dead. This desire for confrontation with her friend that was likely cheating on her or was sleeping with her husband. This desire for confrontation and resolution and maybe even some revenge turns into bloodthirst by the end. And Juno's desire to hide who she is and take out things that might cause her to have to reveal herself culminates in her killing Beth, the only other person in the group that knew that she had been sleeping with Paul. And while we're down there, we see Dr. Sam has to turn into a full-fledged triage doctor while she's down. Like everyone becomes this heightened version of themselves. I don't know. To me, this movie seems smart enough and self-aware enough to call itself The Descent on purpose, in my opinion.
Yeah. And even more with our UK ending.
Yeah, big.
It's even more blatant, you know? But yeah, my super pump
hit me
is Sarah.
Sure. Great character.
Our actress and all that kind of stuff. But she, you know what, we do get the Carrie exorcist.
Just covered in blood.
When we were talking about not having, tropes, she's just covered, right?
Yeah.
But it kind of makes more sense environmentally than other times. It's just, here's this pit that's been carrying generations of carcasses and this soiled water and all this kind of stuff.
Gross.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. But when she comes out of that, I think Sarah's full transformation, I loved her entire character arc. I love both versions. I like that it could have been that she was just imagining this the whole time.
Yeah, sure.
But her to come out and just kind of take this into her own hands, that's when it again felt like a bit Midsummer. It's like the only survivor is the person that is most victorious. The one who's gone through the trauma has found themselves, but in a truly gritty and gruesome way.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so interesting. And it was so cool. The moment she was like drenched in blood, everything after that, she is the most bad A. I mean, she's just in complete control. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
We also had elements of what happens with Ripley at the end of Alien 2, of just being like, I'm going to fight the monster head on because
It's
this
either
is
that or
all I
die.
have left.
Yeah.
Something broke in you. The governor is gone.
Yeah.
You can go as fast as you want.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I'll talk a little bit more about that scene when it comes to my super pump. It involves some of that stuff. So I want to hold back some of my thoughts until I can put them all together. But something I loved in that bloody cave and when she emerges from the cave, like when her hand pops out, and several other times in the movie, we do a lot of really, really fun things with lighting in this movie. Now, the lighting's not always great because a lot of times we have a green glow stick on the ground and you can see green on the top of their head. And I mean, it doesn't 100% work. But when Sarah's hand bursts through, that shot begins when her head first comes out, so overexposed, like you just came out of a cave. Like the camera adjusts to the light like your eyes would, and it's super overexposed and harsh to look at. And then it kind of comes into focus. You get things like the flares, those red flares. Anytime they lit up a flare, I was like, yes, I can see everything now. I don't know.
That full glow.
They do a really good job. The torch looks great. That looked like real. I mean, it looked like that was exclusively lit by her torch for real.
Yeah, so I read a lot about that. They just like the set designs, this was obviously pretty exclusively sets. I mean, we're not dragging all our equipment down into these big caves or anything. But
the caves looked good for the most part, I thought.
So they built, like they were super modular. And so they could turn them at any angle and they basically reused the same like stretch of cave at different angles and things like that. But a lot of our stuff, the glow sticks are a notable exception, but almost everything else was lit only with the sources that the actresses carried onto the set. So they really tried to keep that lighting accurate.
Really cool. I like that a lot.
This small, like the kind of, I was reading about that too, and they were obviously super economical with the making of this whole movie, real savvy, but especially with that set in using pieces multiple times, and then like going different directions. That also felt like Alien to me.
Yeah.
Like having this small area that you can navigate that kind of starts to become familiar to us as the like viewer. But yeah.
So
real smart.
Let's assume the crawlers are real, hallucinations or not. Let's assume they are real for a moment. So is the insinuation here that they are the descendants of the team that got stuck in this cave a long, long time ago, and that over time they have reproduced and evolved to live down in this cave? Or
I don't
are
think
these
they're the
some sort of
descendants.
supernatural entity?
I don't think it's either. I don't think they're the descendants of the cavers. I think they ate the spelunkers. They killed the spelunkers. I think they're
Then
the
what are
descendants of
they?
I think they're the descendants of the people who did the like cave painting. The basically like the kind of Paleolithic thing that they saw at the beginning.
Yeah.
That showed the two entrances.
That was my thought, too.
My thought was like, this is a group of humans that were trapped there millions of years ago. There was a cave in or
these
something.
are humans that have
Evolved differently.
to live inside of a cave and use their hearing and all
That's
that
what
stuff.
I thought. Yeah.
Interesting. I couldn't tell if
Because I think
maybe,
they ate the like previous expeditions that have come down here with the old caving equipment.
that's probably accurate. I think that's probably right. I was trying to decide if I thought that these were people who got stuck and managed to survive in these caves, or if these are some sort of like Wendigo type. So like for instance, when she hears child's laughter behind her, is it a hallucination, or is it one of these things?
Or are
Trying
these
to
things
lure her
also
in.
hallucinations?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
See,
Like,
I think you don't ask that question if you get the real ending of the movie. I think you go, oh, she was imagining her.
well, I don't know, because was she imagining these creatures, or was she just imagining her escape? Was everything up to the escape real, and then she just
I
imagined
think-
the escape? Or you know what I
I would
mean?
think the creatures weren't.
I
real,
think she
yeah.
imagined all of it. Yeah.
But that's sort of the open-ended question that we don't really get here in this.
We don't get
version.
to ask that question now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
but
is
yeah,
more
like-
fun if we do.
It for sure is. Yeah, it definitely is. I don't know. I think I'm thinking Wendigo so much because these things, in my opinion, clearly inspired the Wendigo of Until Dawn.
Yeah.
And they look very similar. We get a lot of the same like tracking shots where they're in the background. Did you catch
Wendigo?
the
Can you
early?
tell what that is?
It's a Native American folklore about a creature that takes on the appearance of like a messed up version of the appearance of and voice of people to like lure travelers in to kill them. Its natural look is like a pale werewolf slash
So like a
deer
regional,
monster.
like a Krampus. Like
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes me the most curious just about like what the inspiration here is just like you said, the cave drawings combined with the missing team makes me do a lot of thinking, like a lot of thinking.
Visually, the inspiration was like original Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Like trying to
read that.
conjure, reminisce like on classic horror stuff, which I think they absolutely look like a classic horror monster. I absolutely
without a doubt.
love the design of the crawlers.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Super fun.
Yeah.
Super fun. And I thought it definitely kind of felt like I want smeats. It kind of felt like a tiny bit of an orc, but I didn't mind.
Well, there was a
they've been-
big time
they've been
Gollum vibe
Gollumified.
the first time we see one in the water out ahead
Drinking
of her.
the water.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Very Gollum. But did you guys catch the early look at the crawlers way towards the beginning?
With her flashlight.
Yep. There is a panning shot when she goes back and says something was there. You can see it in the like.
Oh, yes.
You can see it in the thing. It's very cool. Anywho, it is time. The other tracking shot that you're going to catch is the rest of this episode as it tracks along after shout announcements, which is now. Shout announcements. It's the shout announcements time. That's our song we sing every single time. Listen, if you are interested in Halloween, Chunktober, our podcast, or good things, make sure you join our Patreon. We got 2 tiers at $3 a month. You get bonus apps. You get extra votes. It's juicy. It's delicious. At $5, you get to join the Discord. That's where it's all happening. That's all anybody's talking about. But right now, what you get is if you're a patron or thinking about becoming one, keep an eye on your email inbox. we're going to have a little vote coming your way to decide on our bonus episode for the Chunktober series. That's right. You get to pick what we watch for the spookiest of seasons. So keep your peepers peeled and your voting fingers warmed up.
Peeled and on a seal.
We do. Next week, we are going to shake things up and talk about a movie on the show next week.
Ooh,
Carter,
don't mind if I do.
Carter, it looks like you brought a friend with you to tell us what.
Oh, I did.
Okay, yeah.
Coming in. Yeah. Very, very excited to talk about opportunity for one of the things I used to did long back in the day. Look out for the swatters because we'll be reviewing The Fly.
I can't purr like him.
Yeah, no, I can't do it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that was good.
That was really good.
Oh. Not the cat, The Fly.
Sure.
We're going to be reviewing The Fly. I've never seen it.
I've also never seen it.
Just three boys enjoying some body horror together. Some Cronenberg body horror.
Very excited.
Is it Cronenberg?
We get to continue to see the breadth of Jeff Goldblum. You think he's a one trick. He's certainly not. Certainly not.
Well.
Also, hey, rate and review us everywhere that you can.
Yeah.
Please.
That's it.
That's the one.
That's all.
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches.
Urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
When it's time for an adventure on the open highway, one quick call to American Family Insurance gets you headed in the right direction. Our travel peace of mind package is there if you encounter a bump in the road. From roadside assistance to rental car coverage, we have you covered. Find a local agent or get a quote at amfam.com.
American Family Insurance.
American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
I'll super pump if that serves everybody
Coming right
well.
into it, eh?
It tickles my fancy.
My super pump. There is something about a distinct tonal shift when executed well that I really, really like. In this movie, we start with, I would call it like trepidation, hesitancy. We go into panic mode when we get stuck in the tunnel with Sarah. It's absolute shivers down my spine. Worst fear, hate nothing more than that. Can't.
So bad.
Can't.
Never been a cave guy. Never will.
Ooh, never will. Not a spelunker. For this guy. When this movie finally shifts to kill or be killed, truly kill or be killed. And I'm going to call it, like from Sarah's awakening in the blood pit to her, the best shot in the entire movie, her crawl up the lit pile of bones.
Unreal, dude. That was such a good shot.
That like 10, 15 minute segment is scary. It's thrilling. It's exciting. It's a little dark and bleak. It's sad. It's like the full culmination of this movie into one little bite-sized chunk. And I was glued to the TV.
Yeah.
With a bite-sized chunk like that, doesn't it feel most appropriate to have it at the end? Isn't that where you'd hope it to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. Just really thoughtful move. Like, not a thoughtful movie. Oh, it's a thoughtful movie. The making of this movie is thoughtful. I think our director knew what he wanted, and he, with little money, made it happen.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. I really am blown away. even with its shortcomings, this movie's very impressive for what it actually is. And really, really successful at what it is trying to do in a way that a lot of horror movies wish they could do.
You know, and we might have had a conversation like this, maybe even during Nope, but more likely during Chunktober. But I think making a horror movie is a risk.
Sure.
Because you're for sure asked, even if it's really creative, asked to deliver on something specific in terms of like, you need to be scared. Like there needs to be something in you that feels not necessarily dread, but it needs to be like, oof, I am glad that's not me.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be dread, but when it is dread, isn't it so like poignant and tasty though?
Yeah.
It's like in It, the book, the entity, it speaks to one of the kids, and when he asks, why do you scare people? And he says, it seasons the meat.
Oof,
the fear,
tasty.
the adrenaline and the fear that run through the bones season the meat. And that's how I feel
tasty
when Sarah is stuck in a cave and we watch the rock shift above her. And that's when Beth is like, okay, forget the ropes. Come on, now. Like that whole sequence, my meat is seasoned.
Seasoned it up.
If you want to talk about all the umami flavors bursting out of our muscle fibers.
Yeah, sure.
That scene is my super pump because that is the most scared I've ever been in a movie.
Yeah, dude.
Hands
it's so
down.
Scary.
That is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I can't imagine. Because like putting yourself in the mind of Sarah in that moment of like, okay, this is where I die. I'm going to die right here in this exact spot. And I can see my friends over there and they're going to be fine, but I'm not. That is awful.
Oh my gosh, I hate it so
awful.
Much.
About a year ago, we went to Arkansas, got like a cabin with my family over Thanksgiving. And there was this like park, this like hiking trail we went to. And at the back of it, there's a cave, and you go in the cave, and then in the back of the cave, there's a little spot that you can crawl through. And it's probably about 50 yards, like army crawl on your belly with like rock above you, rock below you. And then it opens up into this really incredible, like, little like waterfall. It's like a lake inside this cave. And so there's no light in there. So you've got the light from your phones. You can look around. It's absolutely beautiful. And if we ever go back, I'm not ever going to do that again because of this scene in this movie. That's all I was thinking about is like, man, I'm glad I watched this year and not a year ago because I would have missed out on that.
Dude, it's, I just, even before we get there, the scene where they have to crawl under, it's like a U-shaped crawl and the bottom of it is water, dude?
Yeah, no.
Thank you. Absolutely no, thank you. I can't.
Not a chance.
I can't. We would have gotten to the top of that cave. And something else I want to talk about is the twist that they're in the wrong cave. I really like that. But when they get to the top of that cave and everybody's like, how do we get down? I'd have been like, I'll tell you how we get down. We don't. Bye.
We don't. Go away. Yep.
Dude.
Yeah.
Because once they go down, there's no coming back up. They got to go out through the cave. Yeah. The reveal. So at first, this is really well done. I want to shout out things like this, especially in a smaller scale movie like this. This is really well done. When Juno first abandons the book in the glove compartment of the car, my assumption, I'll just speak for myself, was cockiness. I don't need it. I don't need the book. They show it. It's obviously important. I don't need the book. I know my way around whatever. It's fine.
There's still a touch of cockiness, but not
there is a touch of cockiness, but to find out that she left the book because it's completely useless because they're not even at the right cave and she knows that?
Dude. Yeah. Our acting, I'm thinking specifically of the scene in which she reveals that to everyone.
Man.
That is one of the scariest moments.
Yeah.
Their reactions needed to be pissed off, and they were. Like, we had everybody kind of felt like in character separately. I think this is subtly a really well acted.
I agree.
Yeah, it is.
Movie outside of our, Juno Momoa moments.
The girl that plays
but it's like,
Sam, the doctor, is Tisea from The Witcher.
Yeah.
And I really like her in The Witcher as well. She's great here, and her reaction in this scene is so real. I think the amateur-ish nature of a lot of this movie actually lends a lot of realism to the reactions of the characters because they're not over the top. Nobody's like breaking gear or punching walls or intentionally hurting themselves because they're all reacting like, I'm pissed, but there's no time to be pissed right now. I'll be pissed later.
We just have to stay alive.
Yeah.
Can I share like something unintentional that I think happened that added to, I'll just share it. It's obviously intentional as to the actresses that we chose for this movie. There's a casting director. We do that on purpose. But the fact that every single one of our actresses has a different heritage, like they have a different,
all of our accents,
like accent that you can't necessarily place many of them from multiple heritages. It is so interesting to me to be down. It's disorienting, even hearing them talk. And I feel like all three of us are usually pretty good at placing an accent. And I knew that there were some flavors here I didn't quite know. And then it talks too about like the exposure of like when we come out of like when we're changing the way that we can view things, like there's a little bit of light here. There's also like an accent that I'm not really picking up.
Yeah.
I don't really know what she said. I don't think I needed to. There's a lot that just kind of fell into place for this movie too. That might not have been fully intentional.
No, that's good. That's interesting.
But I knew. Did y'all guess? It just ends up happening for me when I watch a horror movie that I know many people will die, as most horror movies.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever guess who's first?
Oh,
sometimes, yeah.
Jess and I were trying to decide if we thought this was going to be a everybody dies or a everybody but one dies kind of horror movie.
Yeah, I was guessing for sure that Holly was out.
Yes,
this was our girl.
Yeah,
that was like
the risk taker,
being really cavalier about it, like really going out.
That broken leg scene is
irresponsible.
Tough. Ooh, it's tough to watch, huh?
It's when the bone comes out for me in any scene, in anything. When the bone comes out, that's when I'm out.
Yeah. Also watching, I think it was Rebecca. I think it was Sam's older sister when she has to grab the rope and it like cuts her hand because it burns through her glove. That hurts me as well. It's such a tension heightener down here in these caves to injure our ladies. As we injure our group of characters, every risk is that much greater as they all take on these injuries, whether they're minor or major. And you've got some pretty interesting deaths. Like Beth's death is long and drawn out and really cruel and brutal. Like the accidental murder from Juno followed by roughly 30 minutes later still being alive somehow.
Yeah.
That's brutal. Sam ending her life by dangling upside down from the ceiling. And as far as we know, still being there.
Mercy.
I don't know. I really,
at least what a selfless act by her though, because our next spelunking crew that comes around and sees her, we don't
turn back.
Keep going.
They'll turn back.
No.
Like seeing a little fastener thing that's like, okay, someone else has climbed in here, but to see this carcass.
Also, I blame Rebecca for trusting the 100-year-old climbing equipment.
Yeah.
That's why I don't mind that she hurt herself. I think it's good that she hurt herself probably.
Well, that's why I try to only climb on newer equipment.
Let's play a game called How Far Into the Expedition, beginning at the phone call asking you to go. How far into the expedition do you get?
Man, I think I'm going to get Ed up. I think I go.
You think you go in?
As the people
Oh,
ask.
no.
Really?
Yeah. I think as a 9 on the Enneagram, I just don't want to have conflict and I just want to do what everybody's down to do. And if everybody else is going, I'm probably just going in.
See, I think I get to the edge of it and it's like, I don't know. It's the same kind of pride swallowing as like you get to the high dive and you're like, this is too high for me. I'm going to climb back down the ladder past all the people who are waiting to go on the high dive. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think I'd go into it. I think I'd see the mouth of the cave and turn around.
I think I get the phone call.
You were about to say you would do it.
I think I get the phone call and my first question is like, did you call the right person? But then realistically, my stopping point, mouth of the cave. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to rappel down. And then if something happens, the only way out is through. I'm all set. I'm actually all set.
But you don't know that. You don't know that unless you're Juno.
No, not true. They knew when they rappelled that they were not getting back out that same way.
Right. But they don't know that they have to basically chart their own path through this cave.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying at mouth of cave, once you rappel down, there's no going back up. You have to go through the cave to get out.
Because I think that's the thing that would get me down is if somebody was like, no, this is, like they said earlier, this is super touristy. Everybody does this. It's highly trafficked. It's a real easy spelunk. You could do it.
I would say, ain't no way everybody does this if they got a zip line down into the cave. I'll be in town, posted up at the bar. Y'all give me a holler when you need the car back.
Gosh, man.
I would have brought a book with me probably.
Is it Beth that we actually see Sarah kill?
Yeah. Juno.
Herself,
Juno killed. Oh, yeah, at the end. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah actually. See, I just keep thinking of the original ending. And it's like,
was she
we actually
even?
see Sarah kill 2 people.
Yeah.
Like we watch it happen. Good. Did anybody get some like Rebecca Ferguson vibes from Sarah?
Very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
It's the eyes, methinks.
Mm-hmm.
She's very
Eyes
Rebecca
and the bone
Ferguson.
structure.
Yeah. The high cheekbones with those like intense eyes, very Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
Who is also
Sarah kind of had started as not my least favorite character, but in terms of acting, I was like, she's
stiff.
just kind of dead weight right now. But I think that was the point to where we get to at the
She
end.
wakes up
Like,
when
man,
she's in the cave.
You've come a ways.
Yeah, man. No, I think especially when credit is given where credit is due to how small of a project this is, this movie, even if it's not your flavor, right? There's no way to deny that this is an impressively made movie.
I think it's even if it's not your flavor, it is effective.
Sure.
Like I think this is, to me, it feels like a rare horror movie that I feel like this has to be universally effective, right?
It's like a shot versus a cocktail. It's like,
right.
I don't know if it's going to taste good to you, but this is 86 minutes of exactly
going
what
to
horror
work.
movies are supposed to be. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, our length is really good. I like when a monster is killable.
Yeah, big time.
Because
I love
it's
a
like
fight
now
back.
here are these. It's also like you can also swim in the ocean, but if you get too deep, the waves don't stop. So it's just kind of like the dread too of.
Yeah.
I have no idea how many there are. That was
The
one
turn when there's like 20 of them. No thanks.
Yeah. Nope.
No thanks. No, thank you. I'm good. Yeah, I kind of thought we were going to see them like bounding around her car when she was driving or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had lots of guesses that didn't come true.
The zombies in Uncharted, that kind of like all four kind of thing. Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder how inspired by The Descent those were.
It has to be completely, right? They're exactly these guys.
It's the same thing, right?
They're exactly these guys. They're the expedition that like went bad. So yeah. They Gollumified themselves.
Man, all I can think, this is neither here nor there. I'm just sharing it because the two of you and hopefully anybody listening are the only people in my life that would be interested in this. But all I've been thinking ever since we were talking about how we've got so many different regions of Europe and America together with the different accents and how there are times where my brain can't switch fast enough. Man, what if either in The Descent or in a movie similar, there's a group of people crawling, like climbing downwards in a cave system, and the further down they get, they realize they can't understand what each other is saying anymore.
Yeah.
And they realize that what if essentially the story was like, as punishment for building the Tower of Babel, it was buried, and they have accidentally started to ascend the Tower of Babel because it's been flipped upside down and put underground. Like, you know what I mean? Like
that's really cool.
The closer they get to the quote unquote top, the bottom of this cave system, they can't understand each other, and they're like losing touch with, I don't know. That's all I can think
really
of
cool.
ever since you've said that.
Blinded.
I thought, dude, so like something, I noticed Juno's like feather necklace thing. I thought it was like I thought it was a crystal when I was first seeing it. Maybe because I wasn't wearing my glasses while I watched this movie, but her general.
Is that for your own protection?
Yeah. Her general,
you take
like.
your glasses off in scary movies?
Yeah, I think so. Her general, like, kind of sketchy vibe, it absolutely felt like she was leading her friends into this cave to feed something.
Like sacrifice them or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought there was.
I'm glad it wasn't
another
that
huge midsummer element. That's probably the
maybe it's the
midsummer
midsummer vibes. I thought there was like an old one at the very bottom of this cave, and she was bringing all her friends in.
I think I just secretly want everything to be about some alien god that is underground.
Yeah.
If every movie could be like, and also the reason the toys are alive whenever Andy's not in the room is because Cthulhu is animating them, then I'd be fine.
You know, my super dump was almost like, it doesn't feel incredibly remote where we are in Chattooga.
Yeah.
But I would have expected more people to go down there, right?
Yeah, this doesn't seem
more explorers.
that far off
It feels
the
like we
beaten
didn't
path.
have one in 100 years.
Yeah.
Well,
anyways.
Yeah. I was going to say they must have gone down the wrong path, but there was no right path.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems like the road kind of took them right to it.
Element. Mm-hmm. I thought there would be some kind of magic element to it at one point because it's like the whole point was for Sarah to come down and essentially be chosen or something.
Yeah.
Like the fact that our beginning death is so bizarre when Paul dies,
it does feel like there's
it's
other
like
forces at
killing
work.
you to bring you to this cave.
Yes.
It's fun. I just think really good horror. I think when you whether you try to control them or not, when your senses are super heightened in any kind of experience, I think you are like everything is a bit more sensitive.
Sure.
And so I think to still have like certain story elements that work well, it just feels like it stands out more in horror.
I agree.
think I learn a lot from horror movies.
I agree. It's time to rate this one.
Good.
Particular one. We're going to rate it using the scientific cinema scale, which is perfect. And
Can I say really quick? Can you do descending order?
Ooh. It's always in descending order.
Thank you.
Like
Just confirming.
all of the time. I just realized that it's always that way. Hey, Carter, hey, don't hit my friend. That's my friend. Leave him alone. The scientific cinema scale goes a little something like this. The best thing we could ever say about a movie is own it. Don't lend it.
Buy that poster.
The next best thing is buy it. That's followed by rent it and then stream it. After that is forget it. And last, but certainly least, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie. God hath forsaken us.
Inside and Out, as we saw from many of our heroines, we saw both their insides and their outsides.
Nice.
This is just a good movie. I think this is a well-made, unique.
Yeah.
I think horror is tough to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that our creativity just came from a setting that was creative. I think that we went to a cave was a pretty ballsy move to try and pull something like that off. It felt like this has been a lot of storytellers' ideas, but they chose not to bring it to film. They're like, that's going to be a little bit too tough. Then lo and behold, £3.5 million later, someone goes for it and does it really, really well. And so I buy this movie. I think The Descent is one of those, I think especially with horror, I think with any movie that I rate high, I want to watch it with people. I think especially with horror, I think I'm way more interested in how you're interpreting this movie than I like. I want to watch it for the first time with somebody and see what they can come
I will
up
say,
with.
I think this is a pretty rewatchable movie. I think I could rewatch this, no problem.
Yeah, same.
I would want to find the original ending, which brings me to my rating, which is a rent, unquestionably a buy if I was able to see the original ending. I think that is, unless it's just terrible and that's why they cut it, I can't imagine not liking that better. So it's a rent for me, but it's a high rent. It's a respectful rent. I really enjoyed
Shark
it.
Boy also. Dream.
Oh, man.
Like, well, that definitely was not better.
That's a poster, I think, if he's in it.
Yeah, it's a poster for me.
Yeah.
I buy it. I buy the movie because I was scared. It was effective. It worked.
If all it's trying to do is scare you.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
howdy.
It
Checkmate.
succeeded. It succeeded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
Really, really good. Very strong start.
It is a
Chunktober
good start
3.
for Chunktober, isn't it?
Creature Threatures.
I don't know that there's a weak point
this
here,
is
guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited
I'm
about
just
this
saying
one.
in the spirit of October, the spirit of the spooky
Heard of it.
season. It's a hell of a lineup.
Sure.
Nice.
Nice, but Carter, if you cuss on this show one more time, sorry, kick your booty.
Speak for yourself.
I did. I said I.
I miss that sometimes.
Well, next week. I choked. I choked on my ding dang tonsils. Next week, as we continue our Chunktober 3 Creature Threature series, we will be talking about The Fly, Jeff Goldblum. So, it's so good.
That's so good.
Make sure you check that out with us so we can watch and talk together. Make sure your October is nice and spooky and fun.
Quick question. Speaking of spooky,
Quick
and fun,
answer.
I've never realized, is this going to get scarier every time we record? The fact that I've just got a mirror?
Yeah.
It's never been a problem
That
for
maybe
me.
something could show up. And
The more monsters that I am exposed to over the next month, I think it's going to make them... Maybe I'll hallucinate some creepy crawlers in that for us.
It could be. Yeah. No, the only time that mirror's ever come into play for me in any real way is when you went to look at the people that were knocking on doors in your neighborhood and I could see your
They came
face
back.
in the mirror. That was very
after.
fun.
Yeah.
Like I got my own special picture-in-picture.
Creative
To end
cinematography.
today's episode, I'd like for each of us to say our name and what could entice us to go down into the cave. What could entice us to descend? We're standing at the mouth of the cave. We're sweating bullets and we're saying, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to do it this time. They turn to you and they say, what that could get you.
Honestly, that's a really easy answer for me.
In the spirit of Halloween, I'm Jordan for this one. For Two Chunks, I'm Jordan on this one. And in the spirit of Halloween, my answer is going to be if they're like, hey, they got Bloodborne 2 down there. Oh, it's down there and it's waiting for you. I'd be like, oh, Miyazaki, you shouldn't have.
Bloodborne again. And it's a Christian video game.
It's a Christian game. Well, I mean, play a little more Bloodborne.
I'm Doge, and honestly, it wouldn't be that dissimilar from the real truth of this movie. I think if I was at the mouth of the cave and they're like, listen, there's creatures down there, I would at least be like, what kind? And if they were like, hey, there is dinosaurs. Hey, there is.
Yeah, I was going to say, if somebody was like, there's a museum at the bottom, you'd be like, I'm already there. Jump without a zip line.
I'm Carter, and no one really has to say anything to me that is outside of the cave because I hear very faintly. What I'm now realizing could be maybe the only musical artist that could have a successful pitch to have a concert in a cave. Would add to the overall vibe. I would just very simply be hearing, I don't know anymore. Did y'all hear that? All that I know. I'm like, what on earth? All in. Is that James Blake? All in. I think it is. All in. I think I'm going to go down there.
I really thought you were going to say Nick Cave. Take a little walk through the countryside and come across the tracks.
Oh, there's someone called Nick Cave?
Yeah. He's the one who does the Peaky Blinders theme song.
Nick Cage pun. No. That's why I said The Secret Lies with Sarah.
The Peaky Blinders theme song, the handsome man with a dusty black coat and a red right hand. That's Nick Cave. Dude, you should look up Nick Cave. That dude's life was crazy. Bye.
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches,
urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.